Hello, hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I can project. Welcome to the Big Ideas information session. Thank you all for coming. I just wanted to kind of get a show of hands. Who's heard about Big Ideas before? Wow. Do we have anyone that's applied for Big Ideas before? Oh, very cool. And do we have anyone that is currently looking for teammates right now for their project? Okay, look to your left, look to the right. Yeah, if you've got some skills that you want to offer, then please talk to these people afterwards. But for now, I just wanted to welcome you. And also welcome our online audience. So Big Ideas is a UC-wide competition. And in addition, we have two international partners, Makerere University in Uganda and the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Israel. So welcome to everyone. If you do have a question, please email bigideas@berkeley.edu. Philip, my colleague, the contest director, will be monitoring the email, and if he gets any questions, then we will definitely reserve some time. So if you are in the room, you can just raise your hand, but I'll ask that you wait until we give you a microphone, just so that our online viewers can hear as well. So, just to give you a very short background, Big Ideas is one of the oldest early stage student-led social innovation competitions in the country. And now we're in our 14th year. And so our program in a nutshell offers structure, mentorship, funding, and recognition to interdisciplinary student-led teams that want to focus on solving some of humanity's greatest challenges. But I just said a mouthful. Let's watch a brief video that adds some artistic color to what Big Ideas is.
Hey there, got a sec? We've got some problems over here. Disease, displacement, poverty, climate change, hunger. Problems that need new eyes. Your eyes. We know, you're busy. Class, term papers, research, work. There's a lot going on, but you're not just a student. You're a visionary, an entrepreneur, a designer, an innovator, a connector, a builder. We know you've got what it takes. Energy, truth, insights, imagination, and ideas. And your idea, it's there, and it's nagging you, isn't it? Listen, if you can dream it, you can create, launch, fund, and scale it. At Big Ideas, more than 6,000 students have launched over 450 innovations in 50 countries. So you bring an idea, and we'll bring the structure, mentorship, networks, funding, and validation to get you going. No idea is too small. Let's figure this out together. What's your big idea?
Okay. Oh, thank you, video. That is all we need from you. So, instead of hearing me, which you will in just a moment, talk about the contest, the rules, the guidelines, the deadlines, I would love to bring up a very special guest. Darryl Diptee is the team lead of a previous Big Ideas winning project called the Sonic Eyewear project. He won last year in the Hardware for Good category, and I would love for him to step up and tell us a little bit about himself and the project, and then we can open it up for questions as well.
Okay, so I'm kind of trapped to this podium since I don't have the mic. Let's see what we got here. So I'm going to start off with a story. Can you hear me right now in the back? Yeah? I'm going to start off with a short story. I actually told my daughter this story when she was a little girl, and some of you may have heard it before. There was a traveler who was going through various countries, and he came upon this village that was in a famine. And he needed a place to stay for the night, so he goes into the house, one of the houses, and says, "Hey, do you have a place for me to stay?" And they say, "Yeah, sure, you could come in, but we're very poor here." He says, "That's fine." So he goes in, and he says, "Well, do you have any food to eat? Because I haven't eaten in a while." And they say, "Well, we've been in famine for many months, so we don't have any food for ourselves, so unfortunately we don't have anything to share or to give to you." And he says, "That's fine, because I know a recipe for stone soup." And some of you may have heard this before. And so the people in the house say, "Stone soup? What is that? That doesn't make any sense." He says, "Yeah, it's amazing. Just put a pot of water to boil, and I'll do the rest." So they put a pot of water to boil, and he ties a stone to a string and hangs it in the middle of the pot as it's boiling. And they're all sitting around this pot, and they're all excited, and he's excited. He's like, "Oh, this is going to be the best soup ever." And they're waiting. And he says, "You know what? Stone soup is really, really good, but if you add a little bit of salt to it, it's even better." And the little boy says, "You know, I think we have a few grains of salt somewhere. Let me go find it," right? So he goes, he brings the salt, puts it in the pot, and there they are. They're stirring the stone soup. And then he says, "This is going to be the best soup ever. But you know what? If you have any vegetables to put in this, it's going to be even better." And then they say, "Well, you know, we have a couple of scraps of like carrots and maybe some onions somewhere. Let me go see if I could find this thing," right? So this goes on 2 or 3 or 4 times. And before you know it, they actually had a boiling pot of soup, right? Which they all feasted on. That was my experience coming to Big Ideas, the stone soup story. Because I came here sitting in these chairs exactly almost a year ago, exactly where you are. I was 1 month brand new to Berkeley. I was a brand new student here, a PhD at the Graduate School of Education. And I had spent the previous decade or so in famine, innovative famine. I had so many ideas, so many inspirations, but I had no one who would listen to me, no one that would inspire me. And I was put down, I was ridiculed for the things I thought and the things I said. But what Big Ideas did is that they created a space where these ideas that I had could turn into something beautiful, right? The guy, the traveler in the stone soup story, he didn't do anything special. All he did was allowed people to use the talents they already had. They had all the ingredients, they just didn't know how to put it together to do something good for themselves and for society. And that's what Big Ideas did, all right? I remember when I first went to Danny's office, I was like a wet, sad puppy. That's what I think of myself as, going back to that moment. And I sat on her couch, and I was like, "Danny, you have no idea what I've been through. Like, these ideas that I have, I've been told no so many times. It's incredible. I don't know if I could go on." And she said, "Well, you know what? I think you're in the right place. Let me hear some of your ideas." And I pulled out a piece of paper with about 20 ideas that I had written down during this session the day before or something like that, and a little napkin. And went through, and she was like, "Wow, that's good. Oh, that's another good one. Oh, that one's okay, but let me hear the next one. Let me hear the next one." And she just kept asking and uplifting me. And she created this safe space where it felt okay for me to share and to be who I truly was in my heart. Something that I was, as the article said, a closet innovator for a long, 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 long time. All right? Big Ideas and the Big Ideas team was by far the most valuable asset that I have received coming to Berkeley, as far as entrepreneurship, innovation, and the connections that they have since then connected me with. When I came to the Big Ideas competition, I had no team. I had so many ideas I didn't know what to do with them. And no funding, no nothing. I was just a random person off the street, basically, for lack of a better term. When I came here, I got direction. And as she will show you, there's a process by which you can go a strategy that will help take this grand idea you have and funnel it into something meaningful, all right? Something really, really meaningful that people who are listening to your ideas can make sense of, people who you might pitch these ideas to. So there, you have to trust the process, and you have to trust your team member, well, the team, the Big Ideas team, because this place is a place where everybody, this is going to sound weird because I've heard the opposite of this for most of my life, but Berkeley is a place where everybody wants you to win. Everybody wants you to win. Nobody's trying to drag you down here, all right? You call up Danny, you call up Philip, or anybody on the Big Ideas team, they will help you. They want to see you succeed. And most times, we are the ones who are holding ourselves back, all right? And that's something that Danny helped me to realize. By just sitting on her couch, she was like a therapist, half innovator. But if you can get past your own fear of failure, Big Ideas, they will put wings on you on a rocket, and you'll just launch to the moon, all right? You'll just launch to the moon. So Sonic Eyewear project, just to give you an idea of what we did, my team and I did the 2-minute pitch on Innovators at Cal, I think it was, and I almost didn't show up. I was like, you know what, screw it, let's do this. And did the pitch, and my team members were in the audience. They were literally in the audience. It was 90 seconds or 2 minutes or something like that. And they had whiteboards in the same room. I got about 10 people who showed up after and said, hey, I think your idea was really cool. Took down their emailed each of them individually, did a little bit of a coffee session with each one. And out of the 10, 3 of them were interested enough to stick with me. And those were the 3 that formed the team that ended up winning the Big Ideas competition. The Sonic Eyewear project is an idea that I had about, I was thinking like 9 years ago. So for 8 years, I was sitting on this thing, and I pitched it to many, many people outside of Berkeley. And every time, I would just hear crickets or nothing, or no, I don't think it's going to work. It's just a bunch of no's. And then I came here, and within 3 seconds, I was just like, okay, let's do this, right? Within 2 months of showing up to Berkeley, I was able to get done more in the 10 years prior. That's literally, I'm just no exaggeration, right? So the fact that I'm standing here today, and I was sitting there just a year ago, is, in my mind, it's surreal. It's absolutely surreal. If you put, I use the seed and soil concept a lot in my life. You could be the most brilliant person in the world if you're in like a seed. If you put it on concrete, it's not going to grow. But if you put it in a rich, fertile soil, it's effortless. It becomes an effortless journey. And that's what Berkeley and the whole Big Ideas thing was for me, all right? I was in the military before I came to Berkeley. And when I was deployed to Baghdad, I saw some people lose their vision in combat and so forth. And then when I came back to the US, I heard on NPR of a man named Daniel Kish, who was born blind. He had his eyes surgically removed when he was a baby due to cancer. And he became a master echolocator, meaning he can click, like, he could do that, and he could see the world even though he had no eyeballs, right? He is the world's leading master echolocator, and he's able to ride bicycles, hike on his own, live a full, purposeful life on his own, completely blind. And when I heard that, it shook me because I didn't think it was possible. And then knowing that I had met blind people in Iraq, I said, well, why can't we just turn this into a technology? If he can do this with his mouth and he has to travel to places to train people one-on-one, he can't help everyone because he only has one lifetime to live. Why can't we just turn this into technology and help as many people as we can? So that was the idea I came to Big Ideas with. And as I was building my proposal, it's amazing how things line up. I heard that podcast back in 2009. When I was writing this proposal, I was collecting data because I didn't want to fudge data. And I called up this 1-800 number where Daniel Kish, he has a nonprofit, and I call it up, and Daniel Kish picks up the phone. This is the guy who did the TED Talk. This is the guy who I've been following for like 10 years, right? And I know his voice because I've kind of been stalking him forever. And he says, this is Daniel. And I was like, Daniel Kish? And he's like, yes, this is Daniel. How can I help you? And we literally spoke for 45 minutes. What was just going to be a quick 1-minute call to get some data ended up being a 45-minute call. And I ended up inviting him to Berkeley. He came to Berkeley, I think, a month later. And now we're like BFFs, basically. We text each other on WhatsApp and stuff all the time. So I'm not too much of a what's the word? I don't believe in luck, but holy moly, that was by far one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. Here was my hero who picks up the phone instead of the secretary, who, by the way, he happened to be at the phone in that moment when I called, and he said he never answers the phone, and he had a moment of weakness when he heard it ring. Doesn't make any sense, right? Logically, he should not have picked up. So, anyway, so here we are. We got second place on the hardware for good category. My advice would be they offer some templates and examples, and they offer office hours. Look at these examples, go to their office hours, and keep beefing up your proposal till the very, 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 very end. Very end, all right? If they ask you to run 10 feet, run 20 feet, basically, right? Just put as much effort as you can into this. Beef it up, make it look pretty for people's eyes who are going to be reading 20 proposals and so forth, all right? And they'll teach you all these things with time as you go on. But I highly recommend, if you have the bug, the innovator's bug, highly recommend you do not ignore it. And this is the place where beautiful things happen, all right? The rest of the world will tell you it's impossible, but these folks here and the people in this room believe that the impossible is possible. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Any questions about Sonic Eyewear or
Darryl or in the way back? Okay. Hello.
All right. Hi, Darryl. I was wondering exactly what the Sonic Eyewear did. You mentioned echolocation. I was wondering how that's incorporated into the technology.
Okay, so with the Sonic Eyewear project, there are many good people out there doing good things, trying to create technology for the visually impaired. So the Sonic Eyewear project is one of many, all right? What the others do that we do not is they approach the problem in a way that creates an assistive technology that does the processing for the user. So for example, I'll just make this up right now. You might think of a pair of glasses or some type of thing you might wear around your neck that sends out a signal. And if you come close to a wall, it'll buzz, right? That's a thing you might want to put on a blind person so they don't walk into walls or walk off of cliffs or so forth. What we did is we took the processor out of the system because we believe, after working with Daniel Kish, that blind people are whole people. They're not deficient, they're not broken, they're not half people, they're not anything. There's a difference between being disabled and being distinctive. Being blind is no different than being short or being tall or having long hair or short. It doesn't matter what label it is, but it is not a disability. So because we entered the problem space with that mindset of these are whole people who can live full, purposeful lives, we don't need to tell them that by buzzing something. We don't need to process a signal and tell them that there's a world out there. They already know that, all right? And Daniel Kish knows that, and he lives this way. He lives a very free, purposeful life. So what the Sonic Eyewear does is it sends out audible clicks, just like Daniel Kish does, and we rely on the user to process those clicks, literally their brains, right? Which means that there's some training involved because echolocation is something we all know naturally, but to have it with that level of resonance, it takes training. And this is something that we're building so that Daniel Kish can use to maximize the effects of the training that he's already doing one-on-one around the world. I think there's a question in the back.
I just wanted to bring attention to language that may or may not have been inadvertently ableist. Every person with disabilities is a whole person and distinctive. And some of the language used kind of conflated disability with not being whole or full.
Okay, thanks. I think I was going for the opposite. So we may agree, but yeah, forgive me if I misspoke, sorry.
Any questions over here? Yes.
I was just curious what the mechanism included. Like, was it something something, a wearable that put out sound, or how
Right.
does it function?
Yeah, of course. So our idea was built around Daniel Kish. Well, built around a lot of research that we did, and then also we worked with Daniel Kish to figure out there's some math involved. So, for example, if you wear it around your neck, the click is being sent out from the center of your chest, and then your ears are up here. So that's a different experience than if you're clicking from your mouth, which is closer to your ears. So it has to be in this area where the click originates to get the maximum effect of being able to train. So the prototypes we're building is basically like glasses like you're wearing with the speaker right at the right between the eyes. So it's center, in line with the ears, that sends out these clicks. That way, when it comes back, it's at ear level, and they don't have to calibrate to some weird angle, right? So that's basically it.
And then with your proposal, did you have some sort of prototype already made, or was it all just sort of a written proposal and sort of how you plan to do it?
So we did have a prototype, but I would not say it's 100% required, to be quite honest with you. I would recommend it just so you can kind of put it in a proposal that you actually have one and so forth. But if you don't have one, I would not say that's a game stopper at all. Because our team was working in the makerspace and we're doing all kinds of crazy stuff to see what works. And whether or not you have a prototype, I mean, it'll definitely make your proposal stronger. But that said, if the idea has legs to stand on, that's pretty much good enough if it's strong enough, So don't let that stop you.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's back there. Yep.
First, I'm assuming that Sonic Eyewear is going to become a business. You plan to become a business?
Oh yeah, yes, we will.
What stage of that process are you in currently?
So we are still in the prototyping and iterating stage. We are working with some people on campus to turn this into either a LLC or something bigger than that. But yeah, we still haven't done that yet, which is actually a good question, because a lot of times we think that first thing you need to do is go create a business plan or go file something with the city of Berkeley or whatnot. And that's actually, for where you are right now, I would say that's way down the road. Like, get through prototypes, get something working in the hands of people, testing, collecting data, and then maybe have an MBA on your team or somebody who in the business school who can take care of all those nuts and bolts kind of thing. Because you don't want that to slow you down, right? You want to go through quick iterations, fail fast, fail often, and then at the very end, as close to the end as possible, file to make it legal. I think this lady in
So I
front.
think we have time for one or two more questions. So you're one.
I was wondering if you had a tech background, and is that why you were able to build this, or if you don't, then how did you find your teammates? Period. Yeah.
Yeah. So something that's important is, so I have a lot of ideas in my head. A lot of them, I would say about 80% of them are out of my reach, technically speaking, for whatever reason, funding or the science or whatnot. So what I always tell my team is we're searching for a low-hanging fruit, all right? We want to build it as simple as possible, strip out all the bells and whistles, and let's just make something that works. I don't care what it looks like, all right? If you don't have that capability yourself, you have two options. You could learn the capability, or you can find people who kind of have it or have that bug to learn the capability themselves and bring it to your team. So when you do your 2-minute pitch, or the people in this room, or whoever the case may be, you want to be searching for people that can help you and lift you up, for sure. But yeah, that's kind of important. Otherwise, it's going to be a real steep uphill battle.
And one more question.
Danny, I think we have this
yes.
lady here.
In the front.
Can you give any advice or describe your process, like on the first parts of the application, which involve like describing the need or getting statistics that your product is actually needed and that your product will benefit people?
Yeah, sure. So keep in mind, when you pitch an idea, whether it's in a proposal or on a stage, everybody has a solution, but if a solution isn't needed, then you create a fork with 5 prongs instead of 4 or something like that. Like, we need to know why that 5th prong is important. So the background research is by far the first thing they're going to read. And if you can't convince them in that first paragraph, you've lost them. You got to put all your eggs in that basket initially. Whoever reads that first or second paragraph of your description and the problem space, they're looking for something that's not a bug bite, but a shark bite, okay? We don't want to, how should I put it? Yes, it is important to solve problems, but we're looking for big impacts here, right? Like we want to help as many people that's going to have a huge ripple effect. So when you word and when you look for data, you want to build your proposal in such a way that there's, without a shadow of a doubt, that your solution is absolutely necessary, right? Absolutely necessary and is needed by the world. That's key. That's key. And there's a little bit of art crafting in there, a little bit, but find the data that supports your work, and that's 99% of the battle. Yeah. And I think that's it. Danny?
Thank you so much,
All right. Thank you.
So if you want to ask Darryl more questions, please be in touch with me, and I can field those questions to him, give the contact information. And then, Darryl, I do know that there is somebody in the back of the room who asked the question, who wants to meet you as well. So moving right along, I want to make this interactive. So if you have questions along in the presentation, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. Philip is going to give you the microphone. So sorry if that's awkward for a moment. We just want to make sure that everyone hears your questions, and there are no stupid questions. So you've entered the question judgment-free zone. Okay. So you might be asking, what does Big Ideas offer students? What can we do for you? Thank you to Darryl for clearly showing us that we are a safe place to talk about your ideas. But in addition, I would say that having the ability to win up to $20,000 for your project is kind of nice too. So if you've ever had an idea and you thought like, okay, I just really need a little bit of funding to help sustain this, to help bootstrap this, Big Ideas offers funding at the end of the contest, which is in May. But what we do offer throughout the year is skills development. We have writing workshops that help focus on writing your pre-proposal, which is a 3-page document. We have advising. We have events like Innovators at Cal, where you can actually go on stage, pitch your idea, and find team members. And this is directly related to feedback that we've gotten from students all over campus, where they've said, these are the types of resources I need in order to be the type of innovator I want to be. So we are meeting those needs with events like Innovators at Cal, with advising, and we also have industry experts in our network that are eager to help you at your stage. So within the mentorship and networks part, we have about 300 to 400 judges that are a mix of academics, industry professionals, and now former Big Ideas winners who want to help mentor you. They want to give you advice. In the pre-proposal stage, we have an industry advising clinic where you can get one-on-one time with somebody with background perhaps related to your idea. And then in the second part of the contest, which I'll get into in a moment, we actually provide you with a mentor, and this is based off of direct feedback that you give us. And so we play matchmaker to find somebody that has the skills that you're looking for. But beyond that, we also provide exposure and recognition. So Berkeley is a big campus, the world is a big place, and I know that I've heard from students is building your career network and getting recognition while you're a student will only set you up for success afterwards. So Big Ideas not only is tapped into a lot of different other opportunities on campus that we want to refer you to after Big Ideas, but we have events like the awards celebration at the end of the year where we invite the media to come see some of the projects, and we've had a lot of periodicals like San Francisco Chronicle or Forbes actually print articles about some of the Big Ideas projects, and I think that helps you get you to where you want to go. So if you can say, oh yeah, Forbes covered me, we're going to try and make those connections happen. So having that exposure and recognition early on, I would say, is very helpful. But is there anything in these 4 buckets that is not clear or you might want a little bit more clarification on? Oh my gosh, great. Okay, moving on. And in addition to the networking and the exposure and recognition, we have a brand new partnership with Acumen. Does anyone know who the Acumen Foundation is? Okay, has anyone heard of IDEO? Okay, cool. So Acumen and IDEO paired up and they created a set of resources that help social innovators. And now this resource is for free through our partnership. So if you've ever seen, there have been courses that Acumen sets up and you have to pay a price in order to have access to the course. But if you use this link up there, and if you have a computer, I would recommend just logging on right now and enrolling, because these resources are available to you for free, and you can review them at your own pace. So the way that Acumen has this for paid professionals is you usually have to sign up and then there's a course window. These are kind of play as you want to go. So you can reference these materials, but they're really great. They have resources like materials on what is social entrepreneurship, how to prototype your idea, how to prepare for investing. I would recommend enrolling, and then you can kind of see what their library has. And I would really recommend it. I've taken a bunch of their courses before, and if you don't think it's valuable now, trust me, in your career and in your life, you will really, really thank Acumen for having these resources available. Is there any questions about Acumen? Okay, the other part is that they have a global network. So they work with social innovators all over the globe. They're connected in several different countries, and they are actively right now building a database to connect social entrepreneurs or innovators like yourself. So as our partnership continues, it's very new, it just started, we will be in touch with you about additional opportunities where you can get more engaged, where you can get the resources, the mentors, the opportunities that you want. So if we don't have it, we can also hope that Acumen has access to it. And the way that you can do that is, well, you can sign up for our newsletter as well. I'll make another plug for that a little bit later. I wanted to briefly touch on the social impact tracks. Now, as you can see, there are a variety of tracks that you can self-identify, and when you are applying for big ideas with your pre-proposal application, your team will identify the primary track that your idea is related to. But what we found out is that some ideas don't just focus on one thing. There's overlapping tracks. We found that some projects that focus on global health also have an element of energy and resources. Or some food innovation ideas are actually related to global health or perhaps hardware for good. So these by no means are supposed to be restrictive. They're actually supposed to inspire you to kind of think about how your solution touches different thematic areas. Is there any questions about that? And if for some reason you were like, okay, my idea is great, but it doesn't fit in any of those areas, come talk to Philip or myself, because more often than not, we will find a solution for you. And in this case, we want to hear what those ideas are. So eligibility is, in a nutshell, we focus on early stage. So as Darryl mentioned, it can be an idea that just popped up in your head. I really want to emphasize, though, that in the pre-proposal, you don't have to have a prototype or a demo of anything. Big Ideas comes in all shapes and sizes. So that's the emphasis on early stage. Student-led, though. So we really want to empower students. And so if you have been inspired by research that you've seen from a professor or from an organization, and you want to design a project that puts your own take on it, by all means, that is great, as long as it is student-led. So if you have questions about that, you can ask me now or later on. That's totally fine. And then social impact. So there's a lot of business competitions and other competitions that you apply ROI and they really want to focus on what's that ROI, what's the return on the investment made. We flip that on its head and we say, what's the return on the community you want to impact? As Darryl mentioned before, if you can show that your idea has potential to make a big community impact, regardless of where that is going to get you far at Big Ideas, and that is the emphasis that we put on all of our proposals, is it has to have some type of social impact focus. Is everyone clear about what social impact is? Cool. Great. And there any other questions here? Wow, you guys are so easy. Oh, yes, over here. Sweet. Yeah, sorry.
Just going back to one previous the slide before this, will you be breaking down each of these impact tracks? Because I know you guys have a new one this year, the education one.
Yeah, so if you go on the website to bigideascontest.org, there is under one of the tabs definitions on what each of those impact tracks are. In previous years, there was an element where you had to adhere to the criteria within that. That's not the case. So use the definition of those social impact tracks to kind of help you focus how you want to present your idea. Does that make sense?
It's coming this week, probably tomorrow, in fact.
But thank you for that. So yes, you heard it from Philip. Oh, and then we got one more question over here.
So going back to the eligibility slide, are there any other metrics that you use to determine the early stage eligibility other than the amount of time that the group has been formed?
That's such a good question. So typically, Big Ideas defines early stage as a team that's been in operation for less than 2 years and has raised less than $100,000. But the caveat is that Big Ideas, they come in all shapes and sizes. So I don't want to use that as a generalization. That's just an example of what we've typically seen. So by all means, early stage could be that you've started to field test your idea, you've started to do customer interviews, you've started to work with potential clients, or it could be like, yesterday my professor said something that I cannot get out of my head and I have not stopped thinking about it and I want to come to Big Ideas and help form a team. So it's a little bit of both.
And we'll go into this in a second. Sorry, I'm a little bit hoarse. That's why Danny's doing all the talking tonight. But the methodology of Big Ideas and the way we've set up the first round and the second round is that the first round is about how innovative, how creative is your project. We're not asking at this point in the first round, how far have you gone, what have you made, what have you prototyped. So we're trying to level the playing field in the first round. And then the second round, we're going to speak more towards and emphasize more the viability and the sustainability of the social venture. So for the first stage, to get through that first stage, you don't have to have a prototype. The sort of assessment criteria that the judges will be looking at, in fact, don't empower that in any way.
Yes. Philip, do you mind turning on the lights here? I know you guys all really want to see me, right? Tough crowd. Okay, so we have, as Philip mentioned, the program. We call it the Big Ideas Contest, but I like to call it a program because regardless of where you get in the contest, we have resources that we want to set you up for success in your real life. So the 2 stages that we have are in the fall semester. We have the pre-proposal stage, and that culminates with a 3-page pre-proposal that is due on November 20th. I'm going to repeat this date a lot. And then in the second full proposal stage, you go through some mentorship period. We have additional resources, and that results in you submitting an 8-page full proposal, which is an evolution from your pre-proposal. For the purposes of tonight, I'm going to really focus a lot on the pre-proposal stage and just kind of give a really brief overview of the full proposal stage. But if you have questions about the full proposal stage, come and talk to either Philip or me afterwards. So you guys are at the second Big Ideas info session. Give yourselves a round of applause. You're here. You made it. Yay. But in addition to that, we also have events that are targeted to needs that students have specifically asked for and trying to set themselves up for success in scaling their projects. I really, really want to highlight Innovators at Cal, because what we've heard from students is that when they get to Cal, they feel very overwhelmed by how many resources, how many opportunities there are. Big Ideas considers itself a pipeline program. Because we're early stage, we're tapped into all of the other innovation, entrepreneurship, social impact programs on campus, and we bring them all under one roof to get people from all different disciplines. And I really want to emphasize this, all different disciplines. Innovation is not what you think it is. And we get them in one room. We get them in one room to pitch their ideas. And then we also have a networking session, which I kind of describe as like matchmaking for team formation, where you can come and you can say, I'm a student and I'm looking to use my skills to join a project like some of Darryl's teammates did. Or you could be like Darryl and you can say, I have this idea, I want to pitch it, I want to write my idea on the whiteboard. And you'll have people from all over campus coming, wanting to talk to you about it. And that, I think, is a once-in-a-year opportunity. So if you can, if you go on the website, bigideascontest.org/workshops or /events, you can RSVP to attend the event. And within the Eventbrite RSVP, there is a form where you can sign up to pitch. So you can sign up to pitch your idea on stage. You can also sign up to just do the whiteboarding session. And if you're lucky, you can do both. So it's first come, first serve. But I really highly recommend that, because it's usually later on that students ask about events like Innovators at Cal. And I say, it already happened, but you guys heard it first. In addition to that, we have some pre-proposal writing workshops. So I've been teasing you, we've all been teasing you with what this pre-proposal is, but what we have heard from judges in the past is that they've highlighted specific areas that they think the pre-proposal could be improved. These two areas have been in identifying the landscape analysis. Some people call this a market analysis, identifying who is already doing what you're doing. We're going to focus one of the writing workshops on that. And then the second writing workshop we're going to focus, it's called Storytelling for Innovation, where we bring in a special guest and they're going to talk about how to create a concise, compelling story that is in a 3-page proposal, which seems like a daunting task, but you'll find that this 3-page pre-proposal can be repurposed for grant proposals, for other business proposals. And we've had lots of big ideas. Teams talk about how they have used this to repurpose it for other opportunities. So last but not least, we have the Industry Advising Clinic, which I mentioned. We're going to have a few industry professionals in our network that we will highlight their bio, and then you can sign up for a one-on-one session to get some potential advice before you submit the pre-proposal. And then we also have a few days where we call it an editing blitz, and we meet with students one-on-one. Big Ideas staff advisors, we're not judges, but we speak with the judges, we read their feedback, and so we let you know what we think the judges would really pick up on, what they wouldn't pick up on, what comes out strong. I myself has only been with the program for about 1.5 years, but Philip has been there for longer. He's read thousands of proposals, so he really knows like how to fine-tune and like create a great voice for the pre-proposal. And then the deadline is November 20th, and that's 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please don't wait until the very, very end to submit it, because if you understand, technology is like, it reaches a breaking point, and when we have hundreds of people applying, if they try and apply at 11:59 a.m. and they're like, oh my gosh, the website's not working, just email us. But I'd recommend that you apply when you feel comfortable. The application to upload your pre-proposal will be available by the end of this month. So let's say you already know that November 20th is going to be a really busy time. By all means, if you want to participate in Big Ideas and you have a little time beforehand, you have the ability to upload your proposal. You have the ability to save it as a draft. You don't have to submit it on that date. It's just that's the last date. I think I have to move around in order for the lights to go. So I'm going to look awesome.
And throughout the semester, you can drop into advising appointments. If you go on our Big Ideas website, click on resources, there's an advising tab. You can sign up for an appointment with me, with Danny. There's no limit on the number of appointments you can have. So you can come in one week and work on a problem statement, the next week work on your landscape research. A lot of students who have been really successful in the competition seek out those resources, so I'd encourage you to do so.
And then to quickly go over the full proposal stage, what happens after you submit your 3-page pre-proposal? We have our network of judges and reviewers look over. They'll give you both a quantitative score and, more importantly, they will give you qualitative feedback. This is what has been highlighted from Big Ideas applicants in the past is invaluable. You have industry professionals that are taking the time to read your proposal and give you direct feedback on what they liked, what they thought was strong, how you could improve, and their focus is trying to help you. So regardless of whether you make it to the second round or not, note that every single applicant will get at least 7 to 15 reviewers with comments that are really, really valuable and directly related to your project. And then if you do make it to the second stage, we have a mentoring period that lasts about 7 weeks. We have a few writing workshops and opportunities to kind of fine-tune your full proposal. And then on March 13th, 2020 is where you would submit that full proposal. And in between March and April, we do the second judging round, and we pick the winners and the finalists, and we celebrate with our year-end events, which is Grand Prize Pitch Day and the award celebration, which I mentioned before.
And while there is a formal mentorship stage in the final round, if you're in the pre-proposal stage and you're struggling with a specific aspect of your project, say you need help thinking through the intellectual property rights, or you need help thinking through regulatory aspects of this device that you're going to be deploying in a certain country, you can come to us. We have this network of over 1,500 judges and mentors from the past 10 years who we can tap into somebody probably from our network who has that exact expertise, who will do a one-on-one consultation with you. If we don't have that expertise in-house with Big Ideas, we'll go out and find it for you and try and fill in that gap. So please use that as well.
Yeah, I wanted to mention, like, we don't know everything, but we do have a great network. So if we can't answer your question, we can find somebody that does. But if you don't take the time to ask us, then you'll never know. So please, as Philip mentioned before, be in touch with us, sign up for advising. We love interacting with you and hearing your ideas. But let's get into kind of the nitty-gritty about this 3-page pre-proposal that I keep harping on. Essentially, the structure of how you create your pre-proposal is up to you. We don't want to limit your creativity, but these are 4 elements that you have to include in your pre-proposal because those are the elements that are going to be judged. So the first one is understanding the problem statement. And I'm going to kind of quickly go through these things, but note that we do have 2 workshops, one in October 23rd and the second one November 5th, where we're really going to go through fine-tuning this. So forgive me for rushing. If you have questions, just raise your hand. Otherwise, the problem statement is really a summary of what is the problem that exists. You have to clearly state it. Don't make the assumption that the reviewer knows what your problem is addressing, even if it's really big. If your solution is trying to ameliorate the problem in some way, distinctly describe what part of the problem exists and back that up with stats and research. And if you have done any of your own research, I'd say that's super valuable as well. So don't discount that. Typically, that will be about half a page to a page, but those are just recommendations on previous pre-proposals. That's not a hard requirement. The landscape analysis, we're going to have an entire writing workshop on this, but essentially it's who else is out there trying to do what you're doing? What are the shortcomings of what they've done that your idea either builds on or does differently? And also identifying your competitors isn't always bad. We found that sometimes competitors can be partners, collaborators, even like acquirers of like your idea, your technology, your art project, your whatever. So we want you to highlight that, and judges think that it's really important for you to know the landscape that you're working in. But the proposed innovation. So I'm going to gently disagree with Darryl and say that the judging will really be based on the merit of your idea. If you've done research, if you have a demo, that's great, but you have to clearly show us and woo us that your innovation is top notch. So that can be trying to address a problem in a completely new context, or looking at one solution and changing it either by location or demographic or by one certain thing, and really calling that out is key. So we are going to be judging, not we, but the judges will be looking at what this potential is, and that's based on this section, which is your proposed innovation. And then the last part is the team bios. So this is also one of my favorite parts. Is in other business competitions, you usually have to talk about like all the things you've already done, all the things that you have in place. If you have team members, that's great. You want to showcase how their skills directly relate to your idea. But also, if you don't have team members, you can use this section to call out people you are still looking for. In many cases, we've had people that have moved from the pre-proposal round to the full proposal round and say, I need an artist that's really good with in design, and they put it on there, and we were able, when they moved to the second, the full proposal stage, we could say, oh, we actually know somebody and we want to help you connect with them, and that person's interested in joining your project. So that's kind of cool, right? Yeah. Oh my God, calm down. Any questions? Yeah.
I just have a question about the people that are on your team. So if the people that were on my team, like if I just have like a couple friends from home and we had like an idea, like can it just be other students from like 2 different schools in California?
Thank you so much for saying that, because I almost skipped over that. The only requirement is that the team lead be a full-time student. The rest of your team can be students here, students at other schools, or just regular old people like me. So that it's, oh yeah, but not me. Like not me, but like me. Okay.
And just a follow-up question on that. When you say full-time student here at Berkeley, so I'm an exchange student here at Berkeley, full-time.
So you can be on a team, but you can't be designated as the team lead. And so we define team lead as one person that will take care of all of the communication throughout the Big Ideas process. There's nothing wrong with you being an exchange student, but because we need that sole person that we can be in communication with, you can join a team as long as one of the team members is a full-time UC student. So if you can't find somebody at Berkeley, but you know somebody at UCSC, Riverside, UCLA, that's okay as well. Does that make sense to everyone? I know that it's a little tricky, but I think it's pretty cool. Was there another question in the back, or was I hallucinating? Cool. Okay, so the review criteria is the biggest part of the pie is for innovation. And that means really, I'm repeating myself when I say this, but wooing the audience with not what you have already done, but the potential of what you can do, and clearly communicating this. It is a skill that you are going to need for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, people don't read as much as they used to, and then when they read, they want it to be really engaging. So if you come to the writing workshops, if you talk to Philip and I, and you present us with your idea, we will work with you to try and fine-tune how you can clearly define your innovation, and that is going to be the majority of the reviewing criteria for the pre-proposal round. However, in the full proposal round, we flip this on its head, and we actually focus more on long-term viability. But what you can see here is that, well, social impact, I've already explained. It has to clearly show a social impact element. But long-term viability is just really making sure that this is not a solution that could be solved with doing one thing one time. that impact doesn't seem as big as you creating an innovative solution that has long-term viability elements that can make a sustainable, scalable impact. If you have any questions about any of those 3 buckets, let me know.
And one other thing I just wanted to emphasize with social impact, Darryl mentioned in his talk that we're looking for projects that can reach as many people as possible. That's part of the equation. That's sort of the breadth of impact that we're looking for, but there's also the depth of impact. So if you're working in one particular community, but it's having a very profound impact in that one particular community with potential to expand to other communities beyond that, that initial really deep impact is just as valuable to us as that app that can reach 1 million people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a really clear distinguisher, is that some projects, they say we're going to make an impact within our target population, and they clearly communicate what that target population is. That doesn't mean it has to be the majority. It just means that it has to make a defined impact within your target population. We have plenty of examples online on the Big Ideas website in terms of the diversity of projects that have really addressed what that means. But if you do have any questions about that, please note that this doesn't just mean technology. This can be arts, social change. This can be products, services, programs. Really, there's no big idea, too big, too small, too incorporated, unincorporated, which is really fun, actually. And then the last thing, I hate to say it because you guys are all at Cal, but make sure you proofread. There's nothing more annoying than having a pre-proposal and having the judge say, this was great, but they obviously didn't proofread it. Another example is it'd be great for you to meet with a Big Ideas advisor, because we will also do we don't understand what that means. So if you're using super technical language that only a very small subset of the population will understand, yeah, we might be able to pair you with some judges that have familiarity in that, but don't write your pre-proposal assuming that that's the case. So if you bring it to Philip and I always say, you want to write for a generalist audience, for a well-informed teenager, somebody where if they don't understand a word, you can either clearly explain it in the pre-proposal or maybe find a different way to mention that concept. As Darryl showcased, his idea seemed to be really, really technical, but we worked with him to try and create language that anyone could understand, and that just opens you up for more opportunities in the future.
Yeah, the proposal quality isn't about, do you have a pretty logo and is it really well laid out? It's more about, is it sort of an accessible, coherent, and compelling story that you're telling about your innovation? It's an opportunity for the judge to step back and say, as a whole, do I really feel this was a high-value proposal that I just read? So it's a little bit of wiggle room, quite honestly, for the judges to step back and say, is it compelling, is it a great proposal?
Any other questions about this part? Okie dokie. Oh, yay.
How many proposals can you submit?
Very good question. As long as it is a unique proposal, you can submit as many as you want. And also, let's say that you want to be the team lead on an idea that you have, but you are on the team of somebody else that has a completely different idea. That is also possible. So as long as each proposal has a unique idea, then there's no limit.
Yeah, one of the things that's great. That's a great question to come in for advising for, because we can walk through and talk to you about your bandwidth, where your skills lie, what you're passionate about. We can begin to, if you have 3 or 4 ideas like Darryl had 20, we can come in and we can begin to workshop with you which ones might have the greatest potential for return in the Big Ideas.
Yeah. Anything else? Okie dokie. So also, contact us, please. I really love hearing from students. I get very energized by hearing about your ideas, especially if you are unsure, because I am here to help support you. And if Big Ideas isn't a good fit for you, we can point you in the right direction in terms of other opportunities, other programs. But with that, I also want to make a shout out to our newsletter. I'm really biased, but I put it together and I try and put a lot of effort into not only showcasing the Big Ideas resources, but we have a whole section of other funding opportunities, internships, incubators, grant opportunities, travel opportunities that are all available to early stage innovators, both students and non-students. So by signing up, you just get more access to those goods, which is great. So with that, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions online?
Are there any restrictions on how the funding can be used?
Oh, that is such a great question. No. And that is amazing. And I'm going to say this once, but be careful when you apply for other competitions. A lot of the times the funding that you get does have restrictions on how you can spend that money. But because we're early stage, we want to invest in you, and you are the ones that are creating this idea. So you're the ones that know how to best spend these funds. Does that make sense? Oh, in addition, we also don't take any IP. So I can't say that about other competitions or other places at Berkeley. If you do have questions about that, come to us. We do have some experts in the house that can help you. But your idea, you own it through and through. We want to help you get it, but we're not going to take any equity or IP.
Yeah, this isn't a grant application. This is not Big Ideas. When you receive the funding, it's an award for the development of the idea over the last 8 months. So you develop a really compelling proposal and you get that funding, whatever you might win in the competition. We do ask you to check in and talk to us about sort of the progress of your innovation. You know, we'll check in with you at 6 months and 12 months because we want to know how you're doing and how we can help you. But in terms of the funding, it's at your discretion. It's an award, a student prize.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask the similar question that I asked in the beginning. Raise your hand if you have an idea and you want to find some team members for your idea. Start forming a team. Okay, look around, look around. Now, raise your hand if you came here and you all have skills. You don't have an idea, but you're kind of looking to join a team. Okay, I mean, let's put both hands up. Great. So look to your left, look to your right. You have just met your new potential teammates. So please use the rest of this time here to network. Come talk to Philip and I. And thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Yay.